I played Illuvium 0 non-stop for the entire duration of Alpha Season 0. At the time of this recording, I'm approaching level 1000 on my Tier 3 plot of land. And in just a few days, Season 0 will end, everyone's land will get wiped, and we will start on Alpha Season 1. Here are the top 10 things that I learned in Alpha Season 0 that'll make your life so much easier when you go and start up and try to be as efficient as possible for Alpha Season 1. The goal this season will be to obtain all 15 of the possible blueprints. We don't know how long Alpha Season 1 will last. It will go up until the open beta comes out, and at this point we've heard a few times that it will come out in 2023, but we don't know if that's going to be 2 months from now or 10 months from now. So it's important to start up quick and be as efficient as possible. So let's get started. 1. When you're first starting out, you want to build up everything evenly, but do prioritize the storage. What I learned is that you tend to max out your storage on your elements pretty quickly, especially on those Tier 3 and Tier 4 land plots where you might have 12 to 15 element sites. Number 2, build your extractors for fuel as soon as possible. Even though in this season you can't sell fuel for any real return, there are structures that need that fuel to be built. What I found is that that is a little bottleneck in the early stages of building out your plot. And number 3, feeding off that. Don't stress about the storage for your fuel. In the season, you can't sell your fuel for anything. The only thing it's really going to be good for is for what's needed to build up new structures. So at first, you'll feel like you want to keep upgrading those extractors and those fuel storage, but you get to a point where you have way more than you need for this season. Number 4, that toggle in the bottom right for efficiency, I would recommend just keeping that on pretty much at all times. Anytime you're moving around structures or building new structures, it is very important to see what efficiency each building you're putting down has and how it affects the efficiency of the structures around you. Paths are very important in this game, but they're really only important when you're upgrading a structure. So if you get to a point where you maxed out that structure, then there's really no point in having those paths around it anymore. Get rid of those paths and clear up some extra space. One thing I like to do, especially when it comes to the storage units, is just have a couple squares placed just away from other structures, and I will put the structure I want to upgrade in that square, upgrade it as much as I'd like, and then move it into a different spot where I want it to lie permanently. This season is all about getting those blueprints. And what I found is that the biodata is actually harder to get than the actual blueprints. Once you have the biodata, blueprints seem to come a little quicker, so you really want to max out your singularity scanners. My personal recommendation would be to add as many scanners as possible while keeping them over a 90% efficiency. I think once you've maxed that out, then start going back to those scanners and upgrading them individually. Number 7, don't try to make your land look pretty. I've seen a lot of screenshots where people have the paths all laid out perfectly in little squares for each structure. They have all of the fuel storage clumped in one area, all of the element storage clumped in another area. Keep in mind that making your plot look pretty really means nothing here. You just want to be as efficient as possible. So you might have a couple fuel storage units over here, some element storage units over here, mixed in between some extractors. That's okay. You just want to be as efficient as possible. So number 8 is to use the credits you get, especially since we're in the alpha season. You can't buy any of these. They're not worth any real money, and your whole plot is going to get wiped again when open beta comes out. So there's really no point in holding on to these credits, but I would still use them as efficiently as possible. In the most efficient way is that when a structure only has an hour and 59 minutes left is to use the credit. Because at that point, you're only paying 1 credit for almost 2 hours. Now, you're not always going to get to that point where it's an hour and 59 minutes. Sometimes you start something and it might be an hour and 46 minutes. And I'd say that's fine. But the closer you can get to that hour and 59 minutes, the better. Because that is the most efficient time. Even when you add 1 hour onto that, 2 hours and 59 minutes, then you're using 2 credits for 3 hours. So try to always use that 1 credit for about that 2 hours. Number 9. Is to just remove structures and paths that are not necessary. So in this season, there are 5 biodata can be researched for up to the 15 blueprints. But whether it's 1, 3, or 5 months down the line, once you obtain all 5 of those biodatas, then it's okay to just sell off your singularity scanners, because you really don't need them anymore at that point. And again, with the paths, if you have them laid out so that you can upgrade structures efficiently, but then you max out a certain structure, there's really no point in having paths around it at that point. So just get rid of it, clear out the space, give your land more room to pop up some plants that you can clear out for more credits. And lastly, understand that Alpha Season 0 is going to be different than the open beta. A lot of what I just talked about up until now is specific to this upcoming season. For example, when we get into that open beta, you are going to want to efficiently max out your fuel extractors and fuel storage as much as possible, so you can actually sell that to the market for ETH. And when we're in the open beta, you're likely never, or at least not for years down the road, going to collect all biodata. So there's really never going to be a reason to sell off your Singularity Scanner. And I know it's a long time away, but when we do get to that open beta, I'll definitely be making another video about how to be as efficient as possible for that as well. February 21st is the target date for Alpha Season 0 to end and everything get wiped. There will likely be some patch notes and changes made, but I'm not sure we're going to see anything drastic at this point. So let's all get out there and collect our 15 blueprints, because a couple years down the road, when we have 1 million players in this ecosystem, those are definitely going to carry some value.